Fallout 4, one of the most polarizing games in the Fallout series, narrowly avoiding the #1 spot thanks to the existence of Fallout 76. Before that disaster of a game was released, Fallout 4 received a lot of hate. Personally, 4 was the first game in the series I ever played at the time. Hey, I can hear you already coming at me with pitchforks and torches. Calm down. I've played the other games since then. Relax. Plus, I'm not claiming to be a Fallout expert or anything. So, am I really doing anything wrong? No, please. I'm sorry. I'm just talking about the game. I feel like I'm in a good position to talk about this game because I first played it without any prior bias. The problem is, that was like 10 years ago and I can barely remember shit about my first playthrough. So in order to cash in on the Fallout hype and rake in a bunch of in order to relive the Fallout 4 experience, I booted up the game again and hopped back into the Commonwealth for one more Wasteland adventure. I'll be honest, the reason I decided to hop back into Fallout 4 was the release of the TV show. So, I joined the many sheep flocking to the Wasteland to get our fix of jet and radiation poisoning. Lucky for all of us, Bethesda finally decided to give a next-gen update for a now 9-year-old game. Good on you, Bethesda. Totally not capitalizing on the show or anything. Which, honestly, Bethesda waiting so long to do so, they now look like geniuses due to the hype for the show coinciding with the update, causing one big hype storm, sending player counts into the stratosphere. Is Todd Howard the gaming god that people have been memeing about for years? I'm not saying he is, but the boost in popularity throughout the series could be the work of some divine intervention. So let's talk about the update itself. So far, the only real negative I've seen has been the breaking of basically every mod ever made for the game. For a lot of people, that won't even matter, but for Bethesda game veterans like myself who have put hundreds of hours into their worlds, you know that after playing with mods, you never want to go back to playing without mods. From the outside looking in, it might seem like that's no big deal, but I can totally see how it can make someone hold off jumping back into the game. Other than mods being broken, I can't see any other negatives coming from the update. Being able to run the game at 60 FPS on console is great. There's not many changes to textures and lighting, but they were upticked a little bit, and there was already a solid foundation there. The game actually still held up pretty well visually before, and now things have been upticked a little bit, so it's still good. It doesn't look as good as a brand new game that just dropped this year, but I think it still passes depending on the standard you're holding it to. If you're looking for a Ghost of Tsushima level of beauty, you're not going to get that here, or in any Bethesda game for that matter. Like I said, the textures look like they've been upscaled, and I've always really liked the lighting in this game already. Character models aren't the best at times, and dialogue lip sync is still a little off, but it's not too terrible.
I understand. You have rules. Maybe for the right amount, you can bend them a bit.
What? How dare...
Overall though, you can play this game alongside newer releases, and it still looks good enough that it shouldn't be an issue. The update also added some content from the Creation Club, just a couple weapons and armor that were previously behind a paywall, some things that you can build in your camp, things like that. So the update doesn't really add much, but me being an FPS junkie always looking for more and more frames, the frame boost was enough. With updates and inspirations for revisiting out of the way, let's get down to the meat and potatoes of Fallout 4. I've never said meat and potatoes before, that was weird. I talked about in my Starfield review that all Bethesda games are basically the same when it comes down to core mechanics, character animations, and the gameplay just kind of feels samey. I mean, when Starfield first came out, everyone was calling it Fallout in space, so not to say that I think a developer sticking to what they're used to is bad, but it does open a door for people to walk in and talk shit. Funny enough, I played Fallout 4 before any other Bethesda title. Crazy, right? So everything was fresh for me. This game actually holds a special place in my heart, being the second single-player experience I ever finished after buying my first console myself. After a childhood of racing and sports games, it was games like this one that really started my gaming journey. That being said, this game is far from my favorite of all time. I do hold it in a high place, but it's not one of my favorites. The story is pretty awful, and it's very rare that anything happens that makes you emotionally invested. Even the dialogue between your character and NPCs is pretty cookie cutter and sometimes downright boring. To be honest, the opening of 4 is the worst of all the Bethesda Fallout games, not including 76, and yes, I know New Vegas was made by Obsidian, but it was published by Bethesda, so hush. When I first played the game, the early Deathclaw encounter, it was cool, but knowing what I do now, it just seems like a hell of a way to waste both Deathclaws and power armor by just throwing them at players immediately. And the fact that Codsworth and Preston Garvey are the first two main NPCs that you talk to is wild. There aren't too many characters that stick out to me in the first place, besides my boy Nick Valentine. Love you, Nicky. but those two rank towards the bottom for me, and having them greet you first is insane. Two of the worst characters in the game. Even the moment when you finally find your long-lost son is lackluster and doesn't hit like a true emotional moment. So if a story is what you're looking for here, there's nothing that's going to have you wanting to come back for more. If you're looking for something grand, something to make you feel what you're playing, you ain't getting that in Fallout 4. Now, you might be saying, wait, he just said he holds the game in a special place, but he hates the story so much? That doesn't make sense. Well, my dear viewer, I can explain my shenanigans. The game is just fun to play, plain and simple. Even 20 hours into my second playthrough, I'm still having a bunch of fun running around the wasteland. There's a lot of things about this game that I genuinely love. I get a ton of hours out of the settlement system. I love setting up my own little towns that I can stop into while traversing the wasteland. Gunplay is solid, and firefights can really be intense from time to time, which is very important because you're going to be doing a lot of shooting throughout your playtime. Another thing that takes up most of your time is exploration, and lucky that's one of my favorite aspects of the game. Walking around the Commonwealth and discovering new things or secrets hidden behind doors that some may walk right past. Now, I know some people didn't like that the exploration wasn't more in-depth, like they wish you could go in every building and do this and blah 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 blah. I'm fine with it not being like that. There is those cool moments where like I'm running down an area, I see a random door and I open it, and then there's just a shit ton of ghouls in there and I have to ba 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 ba, and then I get loot afterwards. Stuff like that's cool because some people are going to see it, some people aren't. They're just going to keep on running past that door and never open it. So while I think the story is the weakest of all the Fallout games, I truly believe that the rest of the game really makes up for it. That being said, I don't think it's the best at anything it does, but all these other aspects are solid and can provide you a great time. It's still a very fun game to play. So in my opinion, as long as you're not looking for a story to blow you away, go hop into Fallout 4. If you've never played it before, you're in for a real treat, and if you have played it before, why not hop back into the Commonwealth for one more whole new adventure?